Hey guys, tonight we're going back in time, not to visit emperors or pharaohs or glorious ancient armies, but to peek into something far more personal and honestly, a little stinkier. We're talking about how people tried to clean themselves before soap was even a thing. Yep, welcome to a time when scrubbing down meant rubbing on oil, ashes, or clay, and praying to the gods you didn't catch something worse. You probably won't survive this, honestly. Between the lice, the foot rot, and the questionable potions made from crocodile poop, even your modern immune system might tap out halfway through. But you'll smell interesting doing it. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing barefoot in a dusty alley. It smells ripe. The sun has barely risen, but already the air feels thick, like it's holding centuries of sweat and cooking smoke in its lungs. You shuffle forward, your tunic sticking to your back, wondering if anyone in this ancient city has heard of deodorant. They haven't, because it hasn't been invented. There's water in the well nearby, but it's cloudy and reserved mostly for cooking and animals. Bathing is a luxury, not a right. If you were rich, maybe you'd have access to your own private basin. But you're not rich. You're just a regular person with regular smells, trying to keep your body somewhat respectable in a world where clean is subjective. A neighbor walks by, he hasn't bathed in 2 weeks, and you wouldn't have guessed. The thing is, everyone smells this way. It's communal. Like body odor has been socially accepted as part of your identity. It's a scent that says, I work, I live, I survive. Strangely empowering, right? Or maybe just sad. You pass by a stall selling herbs and powders. Lavender, dried mint, crushed rose petals. These aren't for tea. They're for disguising the unbearable. A quick dusting inside your shoes or tunic makes it slightly more tolerable to be around yourself. Just don't get caught in the rain. Your grandmother told you once that her mother used to boil clothes with ash and scrub her armpits with stale wine. It was considered elite hygiene back then. You tried it once. It fermented. Here's a fun fact. Historians still argue whether ancient cultures truly believed that water could carry disease, or if they just didn't like getting wet. In many places, washing too often was considered suspicious. It was thought to weaken the body, open the pores to evil spirits, or signal that you had something to hide. Imagine being accused of witchcraft for scrubbing behind your ears. That's the level we're talking about. You crouch beside a stream, not to bathe, but to rub your hands with sand and a little oil you've scavenged. It's rough, but oddly satisfying. Sand is the soap of the common folk. It removes grime through sheer abrasion. If it bleeds, you've done it right. Sometimes the richer folk coat their skin in oils, olive oil if they're Greek, scented sesame if they're Persian. Then they use a curved bronze tool called a strigil to scrape it off, taking dirt and sweat with it. It's more massage than wash. You've never tried it, but you've seen it done. It looks oddly luxurious, also sticky. There's a communal bath down the road, but the entrance fee is a day's wages. And anyway, someone said a goat gave birth in the water last week, so you're hesitant. Still, you're better off than some. People in colder regions often forgo bathing altogether during winter months. Instead, they wear layers of wool and linen, trap heat and stink, in with tightly bound undergarments. In spring, the great undressing begins, and with it, rivers of skin oil, shed hair, and filth. You step over a puddle that might be more than rainwater. Chamber pots get emptied from second-story windows here. People shout, "Heads," and hope you're fast enough to dodge. Someone once told you about the pharaohs, how they bathed twice a day in scented water and wore cones of perfumed fat on their heads that melted slowly in the sun. That sounds extravagant, but also, why fat? Historians still debate whether those fat cones were real or just artistic symbolism. Either way, you don't have access to perfumed fats. You have a twig with frayed ends for your teeth, ash for your armpits, and mint leaves to chew if someone important walks by. You spit into the street. A woman walks past with a basket of crushed herbs and clay powders. She's likely on her way to sell homemade deodorant. It won't stop you from sweating, but it might fool someone into thinking you didn't just wrestle a pig. The idea of personal hygiene is tied heavily to your social class. The rich can afford scented oils, fresh linens, and attendants. The poor use smoke. Yes, smoke. Sitting in a room filled with aromatic herbs and letting the fumes cling to your body is considered an acceptable bath. You've done it once. You came out smelling like pine and failure. You make your way to your stall for the day, already sticky, already dusty, already dreading the heat. You splash some water on your face from a rain barrel and call it good. The truth is, for most of history, people didn't bathe to be clean. They bathed to be socially acceptable, ritually pure, or spiritually refreshed. Clean was not what you think it is today. If your skin glowed, it probably meant you were diseased. So you trudge on, unwashed, unbothered, and somehow historically accurate. You duck into a shaded alley where the stone walls still hold the coolness of the early morning. The air smells of last night's fire smoke and the faint, earthy tang of olive oil. A man sits on a low stool, rubbing something thick and golden across his chest. He's not cooking. It's a bath. Or at least his version of one. You're in ancient Greece now, where bathing means anything but soap and bubbles. Here, the gods may live on Mount Olympus, but mortals live in sweat. The trick? Olive oil. You watch as he works the oil deep into his skin, rubbing in slow circles from shoulder to wrist, chest to waist. Then he picks up something that looks like a curved butter knife, the strigil. With a single scraping motion, he pulls the oil back off, and with it, a visible layer of dirt and dead skin. It's disgusting and kind of brilliant. No water, no towel, no loofah, just oil, scrape, repeat. You're next. You pour a thin stream of oil into your palm, room temperature, heavier than you'd expected, and start rubbing. It feels luxurious at first, then sticky, then deeply, deeply questionable. The strigil's edge is cold as you drag it along your forearm, trying not to wince. It's not painful, just awkward, like trying to peel yourself. This was the Greek secret to cleanliness. And not just for the common folk. Athletes, warriors, even philosophers use the same method. Socrates probably scraped his own armpits while pondering the meaning of life. Picture that. Interestingly, historians still argue whether these oil-scraping rituals actually removed bacteria or just pushed it around. There's no definitive proof it made you cleaner by modern standards. But it sure felt clean, and sometimes that's enough. There's something ritualistic about it, almost like grooming meets meditation. You close your eyes as you mimic the process, breathing through your mouth to ignore the odd, pungent mix of body heat and old olives. A man walks past carrying a pouch of perfumed powders. For those who couldn't afford pure oil, these powders, often made from crushed flowers, resins, or even chalk, helped soak up sweat. You've used them before. Your armpits smelled like dead roses for a week. In the gymnasia, where young Greek men trained and debated, oiling the body was practically a social requirement. You didn't just scrape yourself, you were seen scraping and judged for your technique. At public bathhouses, attendants would oil you up and scrape you down, all while casual conversations about politics or poetry drifted through the humid air. It was equal parts hygiene, gossip, and performance. And don't forget the oil itself. It wasn't always just plain olive. Sometimes it was infused with herbs, flowers, or even powdered metals. That's right. Ancient glow-up routines included traces of silver, gold, or lead. Fancy, yes. Smart? Absolutely not. One tidbit you've heard involves athletes mixing their oil with dust after exercising to create a sort of pasty grime shield. Why? To show off how hard they trained. You've got to respect the commitment to filth. By midday, the heat makes your skin gleam with residual oil. You sit under a fig tree, thinking about how odd it feels to be clean without using a single drop of water. There's no scrubbing, no suds, just this slow, slippery massage followed by scraping like you're a human carrot. Nearby, a woman sells small clay jars filled with scented oil. The richer you are, the more exotic your scent: myrrh, saffron, or spikenard. If you're broke, you smell like yesterday's olives, which honestly still beats wet wool and foot rot. One traveler you once met mentioned an early soap from Phoenicia made of tallow and ash. But here in Greece, that's not mainstream yet. It's foreign, messy, and considered too harsh for delicate skin. Greeks trust oil. Oil heals, nourishes, and apparently cleans. You feel oddly fresh. Slick, yes, but fresh. Of course, not everyone had access to these rituals. Slaves and servants were often tasked with scraping their masters, but couldn't always perform the same rituals for themselves. Hygiene, like everything else, was tangled in status. You lie back on a smooth rock, letting the sun bake the leftover oil into your pores. A bee hovers near your ear, probably drawn to the faint scent of thyme from the oil. You swat it away and sigh. You're greasy, but at least you're culturally appropriate. Still, your mind wanders. How clean can you really be if the solution to filth is more grease? Historians still debate whether the strigil method was more symbolic than hygienic. Was it really about cleanliness, or was it about ritual, control, and appearing presentable in public life? Your skin itches slightly as the oil dries, pulling at little hairs. You remember someone once saying the real purpose of the strigil wasn't cleaning, but exfoliating, removing layers of dead skin and boosting circulation. Maybe that's why you feel so alert right now. Or maybe it's the absurdity of it all. You came looking for soap, and instead you're greased like a roasting chicken. Still, in a world without shampoo or body wash, this was a revelation. Olive oil as cleanser, strigil as razor, and your own patience as the main ingredient. You'd trade it for a bar of Dove in a heartbeat. But for now, this is home. You stand stretching. Your joints crack like old wood. The scent of pressed herbs trails behind you as you walk back toward the street. Slightly more radiant, slightly less earthy. And that's how you've just completed a full-body bath without touching a single drop of water. You make your way down a worn stone road, the kind where every step echoes between pillars, sandals slapping softly, dust rising with each footfall. You've arrived in Rome. Not the marble myth version, but the real one. Alive, sweaty, a little loud, and utterly obsessed with bathing. Here, you don't just wash, you perform. You push open the heavy wooden doors of the thermae, Rome's grand public bathhouse, and the sound hits first, a hum of chatter, laughter, splashing, sandals shuffling across slick marble floors. It smells like warm water, crushed herbs, and feet, lots of feet. A portly attendant gestures you toward the appetiterium, the changing room, where patrons strip and leave their clothes in cubbies. You hesitate. Privacy doesn't exist here, neither do towels. You're just another body in the lineup of citizens and slaves, athletes and senators. Once undressed, you're handed a thin strip of cloth, decorative, not practical. Then you move on to the tepidarium, the warm room. It's steamy but tolerable, like a gentle prelude to what's coming. The air hugs your skin, and condensation curls in your hair. You glance around. People sprawl on benches, rub oils into each other's backs, whisper gossip about the emperor's latest scandal, or debate philosophy like it matters in a room that smells this heavily of eucalyptus and ambition. A younger man offers you a splash of perfumed oil. You nod in thanks and begin rubbing it into your arms, remembering the Greek methods. But this is Rome. Everything is more excessive here. The caldarium, the hot room, hits you like a punch. The air is thick enough to chew. Your skin prickles as you step inside. A massive copper brazier radiates heat, and steam clings to your eyelashes. You lower yourself onto a marble bench and try not to faint. Congratulations, you're now soup. This is where Romans sweat it all out. The logic: open your pores, release the filth, then scrape it all away, and scrape you will. Attendants approach with strigils, curved metal tools just like in Greece, but here they're faster, rougher, and always ready to upsell you on a nicer oil blend. You choose the cheaper one, which smells like basil and ambition. You brace yourself as the scraping begins. It's rhythmic, almost hypnotic. Oil and sweat mix into a weird glaze on your back, and with each pull of the strigil, you imagine years of grime being sloughed away. Never mind that the strigil was used on 3 other people today. Just don't think about it. Historians still argue whether Roman baths were cleaner than they looked. Some say the frequent water changes and sheer volume of people created a breeding ground for bacteria. Others argue the sheer quantity of steam, oil, and ritual offered an unexpected degree of cleanliness, at least by ancient standards. You're not sure where you land on that debate. You just know you've never sweat this much while technically bathing. Now it's time for the frigidarium, the cold room. This is your reward for surviving the caldarium. You brace yourself and plunge into the cool pool. It's shocking, but refreshing. Your skin tingles, your mind clears, and for a second, you feel clean. A senator floats beside you, mumbling about aqueduct pressure. A child cannonballs in from a stone ledge, sending ripples your way. A vendor shouts about spiced wine at the exit. This isn't a spa, it's an event. You've been here for hours, and no one seems in a rush to leave. Bathing in Rome isn't about hygiene. It's about community, politics, networking, and status. That man handing out honey cakes near the door? He's running for local office. The musician in the corner playing a soft lyre tune? Hired to soothe nerves during exfoliation. The woman selling tiny bottles of imported oils, charging triple for something that probably came from 2 streets over. You're learning that clean in Rome means more than absence of dirt. It means oiled, scraped, perfumed, and paraded through each chamber of temperature and ritual. It's theater, and you're part of the cast. One quirky detail: elite Romans sometimes bathed up to 3 times a day. Not because they were that dirty, but because it was expected. A way to prove wealth, free time, and cultural refinement. You, on the other hand, are exhausted after just one round. You rinse off in a corner basin, rub a fresh layer of oil into your feet. Yes, your feet. And begin the journey back toward the apoditerium. Your skin feels like buttered leather. You might slip out of your own body if you're not careful. As you redress, someone offers you a sniff of a new fragrance, civet musk mixed with cedar oil. You politely decline. You've absorbed enough smells today to confuse a bloodhound. You leave the bathhouse blinking in the afternoon sun, freshly steamed and vaguely dazed. You feel light. Greasy, but light. A little like a well-roasted olive. The city feels louder now, somehow. Maybe because you're suddenly very aware of how clean or unclean everything outside the bath feels by comparison. And now that you've been oiled, boiled, scraped, chilled, and re-oiled again, you're officially Roman clean. You wander out of the Roman bathhouse, and still slick from oil, make your way toward a sunlit square where traders from far-off lands sell things that smell even stranger than you do. One stall in particular draws your attention. Heaped trays of little clay pots, brightly painted and sealed with wax. The vendor is shouting about ancient beauty secrets from Egypt. Your curiosity betrays you. You step closer. The woman behind the stall uncorks one pot and waves it near your nose. A sharp, earthy scent fills your head. Part cinnamon, part something rotted. Kohl, she says proudly, for your eyes, protection, power, beauty. You don't know if she means from the gods or for the gods, maybe both. You dip your finger cautiously into the dark paste. It's slick, gritty, and cool. This is what Egyptian nobility used, not just for aesthetics, but to cleanse the body of evil, and insects, and the sun. You swipe a little under your eyes and suddenly feel important, and slightly ridiculous. It smears with an oily thickness, like wearing eyeshadow and axle grease at the same time. This is Egypt, and things here are different. You're escorted down a narrow stone corridor into the courtyard of a high-ranking official's home. A servant greets you with a linen cloth and a warm jug of scented water. Jasmine. Always jasmine. You wipe your face slowly, careful not to remove your new royal eyeliner. A young girl giggles and hands you a cone. Yes, a cone, to balance on your head. It's made of animal fat and infused with flowers. You look around, confused. Everyone's wearing one. The idea is, as the day goes on, the fat melts slowly, dripping scented oil through your hair and down your body. Historians still debate whether these perfumed cones were real or just symbolic representations in tomb paintings. But here you are, pretending not to notice a bead of liquefied tallow sliding down your temple. Another servant leads you to a corner where clay jugs sit filled with natron, a gritty salt compound used for cleaning. It's what the embalmers use for mummies, yes, but also what the living use to exfoliate. You rub some onto your arms. It stings slightly. Your skin tightens, puckers, and then begins to glow beneath the white powder. The Egyptians didn't believe in filth. Cleanliness was not just physical, it was spiritual. A dirty body couldn't worship, couldn't enter a temple, couldn't even eat with dignity. Bathing was ritualized. Every action a cleansing of the soul through the surface of the skin. You're brought a small bowl of crushed lotus petals mixed with milk. This is for your face. You smear it on and suddenly understand why Cleopatra bathed in entire tubs of the stuff. It smells sweet, like a garden dipped in cream. Your face tingles, possibly from the acids, possibly from your imagination. Nearby, a priest stands waist-deep in a pool of water, whispering prayers as he scrubs his arms with fine river sand. He'll do this several times today. In fact, priests were expected to bathe at least 4 times a day. An act of devotion, not just hygiene. You're starting to feel like a bit of a slacker. Someone passes by holding a basket of incense, myrrh, frankincense, and kyphi, an ancient blend of herbs, wine, honey, and raisins, burned not just for aroma, but as a disinfectant. You inhale deeply and feel your headache recede. You're not sure if it's the smoke or the placebo. Either way, you welcome it. One quirky detail: the wealthiest Egyptians had personal cleansing assistants, specialists in massaging scented oils into the scalp, removing lice with combs, and even cleaning the nose and ears with ivory tools. You glance at your reflection in a polished brass mirror and decide maybe you do need help with the ears. As you lie back on a low stone bench, a servant begins massaging your feet with thick black castor oil. It smells awful, but feels heavenly. The soles of your feet were considered a sacred site, connection to the earth, a point of entry for balance. Clean feet meant clean spirit. Historians still argue whether the average Egyptian had access to all this, or if it was reserved for the elite. Tomb art shows servants pouring water over their masters' hands and heads, but what about farmers, laborers, or street vendors? Likely they cleaned in the Nile, fast, basic, and without lotus milk. You're offered a small stick, frayed at the end like a tiny broom. This is your toothbrush, and the Egyptians were ahead of the game on oral hygiene. The stick is soaked in mint and sweet bark. You chew it a few times and rub it along your teeth. It tastes oddly fresh and woody. A young boy comes by offering a splash of rose water to rinse your hands. You nod, letting the cool liquid run through your fingers. Your skin feels both raw and reborn. As the sun dips lower, casting amber light through linen curtains, you're handed a fresh tunic, soft, bleached, and gently perfumed. You slip it on and feel lighter, almost worthy of worship. And now, as your cone continues to melt and the last of the natron flakes off your skin, you realize Egyptians weren't just cleaning themselves. They were transforming. From sweaty humans into offerings fit for gods. You step back out into the street, face glowing, eyelids greasy, and hair full of floral tallow. You're ready to face the afterlife, or at least the next meal. You move beyond the cultivated gardens and polished limestone walls of Egypt, deeper into the arid, open landscapes where survival itself is a kind of hygiene. The air here is bone-dry, sun-bleached, and relentlessly gritty. Welcome to the deserts, where water is rare, but that doesn't mean people gave up on staying clean. You feel the heat immediately. It doesn't sit on your skin. It radiates through you, like you're being gently slow-cooked. The kind of dry that makes your lips crack and your clothes stick to you even if you're not sweating. But you are. Constantly. Bathing here isn't about stepping into pools or soaking in tubs. It's about mastering the environment. You find a caravan of traders unloading their packs near a cluster of tents. You're ushered in with a nod and offered a small bowl, not of water, but of fine, cool ash. You're skeptical, but the elder sitting near the fire gestures for you to rub it on your arms. It's soft, like talc, and carries the faint scent of burned myrtle leaves. You begin to dust yourself off, patting your face and arms, watching the ash absorb the film of sweat and oil clinging to your skin. This is cleanliness by subtraction. No scrubbing, no rinsing, just balancing out the body's natural state with the desert's finest resource: dust. Next comes the smoke, A younger woman fans embers in a clay bowl until small tendrils of blue-gray vapor curl upward. She adds crushed herbs, lavender, sage, and frankincense. The tent fills with soft, swirling haze, and you're instructed to sit still. You close your eyes as the smoke weaves through your clothes, curls into your scalp, clings to your skin. It doesn't wash you, but it changes you. Your scent, your texture, your presence. Historians still argue whether this practice, smoke bathing or fumigation, was more medicinal or spiritual. The truth is, it was probably both. A way to mask odor, repel insects, and purify yourself from unseen energies. You're handed a rough cloth soaked in rose water and lemon. It's warm from the sun and smells like the idea of freshness, if not the real thing. You wipe down your face and neck. The grime lifts in streaks, but the scent that remains is oddly uplifting. You feel less dusty. Not clean in the modern sense, but organized, balanced. In these parts, water is for drinking, not spilling. Instead, cleanliness is achieved through a combination of techniques: gentle abrasion with fine sand, perfumed smoke, fragrant oils, and patience. One elder explains how, long ago, warriors would coat their skin with a thin layer of clay before traveling across the dunes. It acted as a shield against sun, wind, and smell. At night, the dried clay would be flaked off, taking dirt and sweat with it. Think of it like a full-body face mask, minus the spa music. You try it. The clay is cool at first, then hardens quickly in the dry air. It tightens around your joints and makes your skin feel like parchment. After an hour, a woman uses a dried palm frond to gently scrape it away. Underneath, your skin feels baby soft and a little raw. A passing boy hands you a bowl of sand, fine as flour, warm from the sun. You rub a handful between your palms, then across your arms. It exfoliates gently, lifting grit and odor with it. When you're done, you shake yourself off like a dusty cat and marvel at the weird satisfaction of sand as a hygiene product. Fun fact: some desert cultures also used oils infused with oud, a rare, resinous wood with a rich, smoky scent. It not only masked body odor, but marked status. The rarer the oud, the more important you were. You take a whiff of a sample someone offers. It smells like fire and mystery and possibly wealth. You're brought a bowl of dried herbs and a length of rough linen. You grind the herbs, thyme, mint, chamomile, into the cloth, then rub it over your body like a dry scrub. It leaves behind flecks of green and gold, and you feel refreshed, even without a drop of water. One man tells you that water cleans the skin, but smoke cleans the soul. You nod solemnly, half in agreement, half because the smoke has made you lightheaded. You lie back on a woven mat beneath a canopy of camel wool, letting the last rays of the sun warm your freshly scrubbed limbs. A cool breeze stirs the tent flaps. You feel peaceful, clean, not in spite of the desert, but because of it. Historians often underestimate how creative people had to be when bathing wasn't an option. Here, hygiene was about intention. You didn't just wash, you purified. You didn't just mask odor, you transformed it into something sacred. And honestly, you kind of smell amazing, like charcoal and mint and survival. As night falls and the stars open like lanterns across the desert sky, someone places a tiny clay bead in your palm. It's been soaked in myrrh and sun-dried. You rub it behind your ears, feeling its warm, waxy texture melt into your skin. And now, wrapped in cloth that smells like every element on earth, dusted with ash and perfumed by fire, you drift off under a sky too big to care about soap. You awaken slowly. stretching beneath the soft scratch of linen as the first light of dawn peeks over a distant jungle ridge. The smell of turmeric, sandalwood, and a hint of ginger hangs in the air like a morning prayer. You're in ancient India now, and the bathing rituals here are different, gentler, warmer, and somehow more personal. You rise and step out into a courtyard where terracotta pots line the walls, each filled with something fragrant. Rosewater, milk, sandalwood paste, powdered lentils, crushed neem leaves. You feel like you've stumbled into a kitchen that doubles as a spa. A woman greets you with a bowl of ubtan, a yellowish paste made from ground chickpea flour, turmeric and sandalwood mixed with milk or rosewater. She smiles and smears a generous amount onto your arms with her fingers, then hands you your own bowl. You hesitate. This doesn't look like soap. It looks like breakfast. But when in ancient India, you begin rubbing the paste across your chest, arms, and legs. It's gritty but soft, warm from the clay pot. It smells divine, like earth and sunlight and gentle spice. This isn't just a bath. It's a ceremony, a daily ritual tied to Ayurvedic principles meant to balance your doshas, your body energies. You don't just clean here, you harmonize. You sit on a low stool as warm water, infused with vetiver roots, is poured slowly over your head. The scent is grassy, grounding. The water is caught in a basin beneath you, then reused for your feet. A young boy hands you a neem twig, the Indian version of a toothbrush. You chew the end until it frays, then scrub your teeth with the bitter bristles. It tastes like nature's mouthwash, harsh but effective. You spit into a banana leaf and rinse with cardamom water. Fun fact, neem has antibacterial properties, and even today, it's used in soaps and shampoos across South Asia. Long before anyone was bottling hygiene, people here were growing it. You notice how calm everything feels. Bathing isn't rushed. It's woven into life like eating or praying. Children are bathed by mothers with rhythmic humming. Elders are massaged with warm sesame oil before sunrise, and even animals are cleaned ceremonially. You watch as a servant massages a paste of amla, Indian gooseberry, into another guest's scalp. It darkens the hair, cools the head, and supposedly strengthens memory. You try some. It smells faintly of sharp berries and crushed herbs. A scholarly monk nearby explains that in ancient texts, the Vedas, bathing is described as a sacred duty, especially before prayers or meals. To approach the divine, one must first approach cleanliness, inside and out. Historians still debate how much of this daily ritual was spiritual versus practical. Was the turmeric for purification or pest control? Was the sesame oil symbolic or just excellent skin protection? Likely both. That's the thing with ancient India. Everything physical had a metaphysical twin. You're guided toward a shallow stone tub where flower petals float lazily on the surface. The water's been sun-warmed and scented with tulsi, or holy basil. You sink into it slowly, and the warmth seeps into your joints like soft music. Next comes the body scrub, a grainy mix of mung bean flour, dried orange peel, and yogurt. It smells like dessert, but works like a charm. You rub it along your limbs, feeling it lift days of skin and oil, leaving behind a silky softness you haven't felt in a while. And now, time for the hair. You're handed a thick, goopy paste of shikakai, an ancient soap pod that foams just enough when mixed with water. It's slightly sour-smelling and turns your scalp into a soft battlefield of bubbles and plant bits. You rinse with warm water poured from a bronze pitcher. No shower heads here, just graceful hands and slow tilts. Your hair feels oddly bouncy afterward, as if even your strands have been meditating. One quirky thing you notice: people here dry off in the sun, not by scrubbing, but by standing. The warmth bakes away moisture while enhancing the effect of the oils still left on your skin. You stand still, eyes closed, sun melting through your eyelids like saffron. In the background, a soft chant rises from the temple nearby. Clean, oiled, scrubbed, and scented, you feel ready, not just for the day, but for anything divine it might bring. Someone brings you a cup of warm ginger tulsi tea, served after bathing to help align your digestion. You sip slowly, letting the steam cleanse your sinuses. Even your breath feels purified now. You walk through a garden path, toes brushing wet grass, as a peacock shrieks somewhere in the distance. You smell like herbs and sunlight, and something hard to name, something ancient. Historians still marvel at how advanced Ayurvedic hygiene practices were, multi-step routines tailored to seasons, body types, even planetary alignments. Not just bath and done, but a whole science of bodily awareness. You haven't just cleaned your body, you've performed a slow, graceful reset. You return to your clay room, sit cross-legged on a straw mat, and exhale. And though there's no soap in sight, you might be the cleanest you've ever been. You drift further east now, carried along by the scent of steamed rice and camellia blossoms, until you arrive in a quiet, mist-covered village, nestled in the mountains of ancient Japan. The silence is peaceful, broken only by birdsong and the distant trickle of water over stones. You're greeted not with fanfare, but with serenity. A simple bow, a warm towel, and a gently steaming cup of barley tea. Bathing here is not loud, not communal in the Roman sense. It's reflective, private, almost sacred. You remove your shoes before stepping into the wooden bathhouse. The scent of hinoki, or Japanese cypress, greets you immediately, woody, clean, and grounding. Your bare feet touch the smooth floorboards, warm from the morning sun. A shallow basin waits in the corner. You kneel and begin the meyarai, the pre-wash. Before entering the actual bath, you must cleanse yourself thoroughly. You scoop ladles of warm water over your body, then gently scrub using a soft cloth and a paste made from rice bran. It smells faintly sweet, like toasted flour. This is no rushed shower. Each motion is deliberate. You wash your arms in slow, mindful strokes, your chest, your feet. You rinse each time with care, as if the water is watching. Only once you are clean enough for the water, truly clean, do you step into the ofuro, the wooden soaking tub. It's deep, chest high, and filled with water that is just shy of too hot. The heat wraps around you instantly. It doesn't sting, it envelops. You close your eyes, your heartbeat slows. This isn't about soap, or scrubbing, or socializing. The bath here is about stillness, reflection, a way to return the body and mind to balance. Historians still argue whether early Japanese bathing practices were religious, hygienic, or both. What is clear is that cleanliness, soji, was connected to both physical health and spiritual purification. Dirt was seen as a form of disorder, cleanliness an act of discipline and respect. The water here is often infused with herbs or flowers depending on the season. Today, you're lucky. It's yuzu season. Those fragrant little citrus fruits bob gently at the water's surface. Their scent sharpens your mind and softens your skin. One quirky detail. In some households, the bath water isn't drained after each use. Instead, family members bathe in succession, from eldest to youngest, each one pre-washing thoroughly to keep the water pure. It's a hierarchy of hygiene and a trust system. You lean your head back against the wood. The room is quiet, save for the drip of condensation from the ceiling. You can hear your own breath. Inhale, wood, steam, citrus. Exhale, tension, clutter, noise. A soft cloth infused with camellia oil is handed to you. You wipe it along your forearms, your neck, your face. It leaves a subtle sheen, not greasy but luminous. This oil has been used for centuries in Japan, for skin, for hair, for protection against the dry winter air. You feel your pores open, your shoulders drop. There is no rush to leave. Bathing here is an art form, a rhythm. The architecture of the bathhouse, the curves of the wood, the angle of the light, the silence, is designed to help you descend into quietude. You recall the teachings of Zen. Clean the body, clear the mind. One reflects the other. Once you finally rise from the ofuro, your skin glows. Not because you've scrubbed it raw, but because you've respected it, honored it. You pat yourself dry with a linen towel, never rub, and step into a fresh cotton robe. Someone offers you a dab of persimmon leaf oil behind the ears. A gentle, earthy scent lingers as you walk barefoot along the Ngawa, the open corridor of the home. Outside, a bamboo water fountain tips rhythmically. A crow calls in the trees. Your senses are sharp but calm, like the first second of silence after a bell stops ringing. Historians often compare Japanese bathing traditions with those of other ancient cultures, noting how uniquely they balance function and form. The bath is not just utilitarian, it's ritualistic, meditative. A ceremony repeated daily with devotion and grace. You feel lighter, not just cleaner, but restored. Like your molecules have been politely rearranged, you sip your barley tea once more, still warm, still perfect. And as the steam rises from the wooden cup and melts into the air, you realize, in Japan, cleanliness isn't something you chase. It's something you become. You stir from your peaceful soak and open your eyes to a new scent. Earthy, heavy, and strangely familiar. You're in early medieval Europe now, and things smell different. Gone are the fragrant oils and flowered rinses. Here, cleanliness is more about survival than serenity. The first thing you notice is the chill. Even indoors, the air feels damp and indifferent. The stone walls sweat. Wooden beams above your head groan like they remember warmer times. You shiver slightly and pull your coarse wool cloak tighter. Welcome to the Dark Ages, where baths are rare, water is suspect, and hygiene is, well, evolving. You're ushered into what passes for a bathhouse, a small, smoky structure next to a monastery. It's more hut than spa. A large wooden barrel sits in the center, already half filled with cloudy water. The monk tending it stirs it with a stick that looks far too similar to one used for porridge. You step closer and eye the water. It's warmish. Sort of. And it smells faintly of lavender and something burnt. This is the local attempt at purification, a mix of herbs boiled into the water, partly for scent, partly for protection. From what? Plague, demons, or lice? Take your pick. You're handed a square of lye soap, harsh, grainy, and smelling vaguely of ashes and goat fat. It stings your hand slightly, and you wonder whether it's cleansing you or slowly removing your fingerprints. Bathing here is an event, a gamble. Hot water is precious, soap is expensive, privacy is non-existent, and rumors about water-spreading disease circulate almost as much as the Black Death. Historians still argue whether medieval Europeans really avoided bathing altogether, or if that's a myth born of selective record-keeping. Evidence suggests that peasants did bathe, just not often and not luxuriously. Streams, rain barrels, or the occasional communal tub would suffice. But frequent washing? That was suspicious, almost vain, maybe even sinful. You kneel beside the barrel and begin to ladle water over your arms, feeling the temperature drop, with each splash. No fragrance, no ceremony, just cold reality and a splash of medieval grit. A woman nearby rubs herself down with a cloth soaked in vinegar and rosemary, an attempt to kill lice and bad humors. It stinks, but probably works. You're given a similar cloth and begin to dab yourself, holding your breath. The water you're sharing was used earlier by someone else, possibly several someones. You try not to think about it. One quirky detail. People believed that water could open the pores and allow disease to enter the body. So, paradoxically, many avoided full immersion to stay healthy. Sweat, after all, was considered natural and protective. Like a medieval force field, you reach for a wooden comb to rake through your hair. Lice were so common, they were often just accepted, talked about like the weather. There were even combing songs. You hum a few bars as you work through the tangles. A friar explains that monasteries often kept better hygiene than cities. Monks were instructed to bathe every few weeks, some even weekly. Not for pleasure, but as discipline. Clean body, clean mind, clean soul. You're offered a cup of warmed ale, not to drink, but to rinse your hands. It's safer than water, they say. You comply, even as the sticky residue raises more questions than it answers. As you dry off with a stiff, scratchy cloth, a young boy shows you his tooth powder, a mixture of crushed eggshells, sage, and charcoal. He dips his damp finger in and scrubs his teeth proudly. You try a pinch. It's gritty and sharp, but leaves your mouth strangely refreshed, like medieval mouth gravel. Your clothes, meanwhile, are problematic. Washed only occasionally and usually with lye and cold water, garments were rarely truly clean. You shake out your tunic and catch a whiff of damp wool, smoke, and something ancient. You step outside into the gray light. The breeze cuts through your damp hair, and your skin is red from scrubbing. You're not sure if you're cleaner or just colder. But there's a certain pride in having braved the bath. You smell less like an open fire pit, and your fingernails are visible again. It counts. A local healer offers you a small pouch of dried herbs to keep in your shirt. Lavender, sage, and marjoram to ward off evil smells and even more evil spirits. You tuck it close to your chest. Historians often note how personal hygiene and spiritual health were closely tied in medieval Europe. To be dirty was natural. To be too clean might be seen as suspicious, prideful, even heretical. Cleanliness wasn't for beauty. It was for humility, for modesty, and for staying out of trouble. You walk past the village green where children play in the mud and adults ignore it. Dirt is life here. Bathing, when it happens, is a reset, not a routine. You take a deep breath, catching hints of ash, wet grass, and rosemary. Not a spa scent, but something real, grounded, historic. You're not sparkling, but you're done. And in the Middle Ages, that's more than enough. You shiver off the medieval damp as your surroundings morph again, this time into sharp mountains, crisp air, and golden sunlight glinting off cold rivers. You've arrived in the Viking world, somewhere near a fjord where the wind smells like pine, salt, and maybe a little bit of fermented herring. It's colder here, but somehow cleaner. The Norse, you quickly learn, have a surprisingly solid reputation for personal hygiene, at least compared to some of their medieval neighbors. And it starts early in the day. You wake in a longhouse, thick with smoke from a central fire, and the scent of pine tar from the wooden beams. A woman is already heating water in a large iron kettle. Outside, the snow glows in the morning sun. Inside, your breath still clouds the air. First things first, comb your hair. You're handed a bone comb, carved with intricate patterns. The Vikings were big on combs, not for vanity, but for maintenance. Head lice were a thing, and so was pride. You rake the comb through your hair and beard if you have one, and you feel oddly dignified, even with freezing toes. Next comes the morning wash. There's no indoor plumbing, but there's a shared wash basin, carved from stone or wood, set outside the house. You brace yourself. The water is from the stream, which is melted glacier, which is another way of saying it's frigid. You splash it over your face and gasp loud enough to scare a nearby goat. But it wakes you up. And oddly, it feels clean, honest. You dry off with a piece of rough spun wool and warm your hands near the fire. Then comes the soap, real soap. The Vikings used something called lye soap, made by boiling animal fat with wood ash. It smells like survival and looks like something between fudge and regret. Historians still argue whether the Norse were exceptionally clean or just cleaner than everyone else at the time. But archaeological finds suggest a surprising abundance of hygiene tools. Tweezers, ear spoons, nail cleaners, even toothpicks. You pocket one of each, just in case. Someone hands you a small pouch. It contains birch bark powder, used to rub onto the teeth and gums. It's minty in a forest kind of way, and tastes like you've just bitten a twig, but in a refreshing sense. There's also steam bathing, and you're lucky enough to be invited to one. You hike up a snowy trail to a humble stone structure, half buried in earth, like it's hiding from the gods. Inside is a simple sauna. A wood fire heats stones, and water is ladled onto them to release clouds of steam. You step in, strip down, and sit on a wooden bench. It's dark, hot, humid, and surprisingly pleasant. Your pores open like sea anemones. Your muscles relax. Someone whips a bundle of leafy birch branches gently over your back, not in anger, but as stimulation. It improves circulation, they say. You just nod and let it happen. It's somehow soothing and slightly scary at the same time. One quirky fact: Viking men often styled their beards and braided their hair. Some even bleached it with lye to lighten the color, both a fashion statement and possibly to rid themselves of lice. Hygiene wasn't just a chore. It was part of personal presentation, especially for warriors and merchants. You step out of the sauna into a pile of snow and collapse into it like a half-cooked lobster. You're steaming, literally. Your skin tingles, your brain feels rebooted, and every breath tastes like frost and pine. You're offered a sip of mead, more to warm your belly than your breath, and someone rubs a bit of seal fat onto their skin to protect against windburn. You pass on that particular step. Later, in the longhouse, you sit beside a basin as a young girl carefully scrapes under her fingernails with a bronze pick. A boy plucks something from his hair with the tip of his bone comb. Hygiene here is part of the daily rhythm, like sharpening your blade or feeding the livestock. Historians often note how foreign visitors to the Norse lands remarked on their grooming habits. To some, it was excessive. To the Vikings, it was simply what you do. Clean face, clean blade, clear conscience. Before bed, you rinse your face again, this time with melted snow infused with thyme. Your skin feels tight, your hair is half-iced, and you're as clean as a raider can be. You lie back on a straw-stuffed mattress beneath heavy wool blankets, hair still damp from the sauna, skin still warm from the birch, and as the northern wind howls against the thatched roof, you drift to sleep smelling faintly of pine, ash, and warrior pride. Section 10. When you open your eyes again, the light has changed. It's warmer now, golden and slow. The sound of cicadas hums in the background, and olive trees sway gently against a stone wall. You're in ancient Greece now, and things are about to get philosophical. Bathing here isn't just a bodily need, it's practically a civic duty. You walk into a gymnasium, and no, it's not full of treadmills. It's a public space where men exercise, discuss politics, debate ethics, and yes, bathe. The air smells of olive oil, sweat, and crushed herbs. You spot athletes wrestling in the sand, their bodies gleaming with oil. A man walks by, scraping his arm with a strange curved tool. You're handed one, too. It's a strigil, used for removing dirt, oil, and dead skin after workouts. You strip off your tunic and oil yourself down with a small flask of olive oil infused with bay leaves. You feel ridiculous at first, slippery and over-lubricated, but it makes the strigil glide easily along your limbs. You drag the metal edge across your skin, watching as grime, dust, and dead cells are scraped away in shiny ribbons. Satisfying, and just a little gross. Someone splashes a bucket of warm water over your shoulders. It feels heavenly. Cleanliness here is about balance, the body, the soul, and the polis. Historians still debate how widespread daily bathing was in Greece. Some suggest it was mostly the elite. Others argue that communal gymnasia and bathhouses were common even for middle-class citizens. But no one denies that hygiene was tied to arete, excellence of body and mind. You're led toward the bath chambers, lutra, a set of rooms with tubs and basins. No massive pools yet. That's more a Roman thing. But the Greeks laid the foundation. You step into a shallow, ceramic-lined basin. A servant pours warm water over your head, laced with crushed thyme and honey. Your skin sings. Nearby, philosophers debate the ethics of foot washing. You chuckle, thinking how hygiene here isn't just physical. It's wrapped up in ethos, in pride, in community. To be dirty is to insult the space and those within it. You sit on a marble bench as a young boy brings a cloth dipped in vinegar and rosemary water. He dabs your face gently. You feel like a marble statue slowly being restored. Fun detail. Public bathhouses had signs posted about etiquette. No loud voices, no fighting, and definitely no running. Cleanliness extended beyond skin to behavior. Bathing was a form of discipline, almost like a ritual. You're handed a small sponge tied to a stick, used for cleaning hard-to-reach places. It's the ancient Greek version of the loofah. You scrub your back with mild soap made from goat fat and ash, letting the suds trail down your legs. The room fills with a kind of sacred quiet, not religious exactly, but respectful. Even naked and vulnerable, everyone here holds themselves with poise. You feel it infecting you, this quiet dignity. Someone recites a verse from Homer, water dripping from his beard as he quotes, "Even the gods bathe before feasting." You're pretty sure he's making it up, but it still sounds right. You move to a smaller room where cool water flows from a bronze spout shaped like a lion's head. You rinse the oil and soap from your body and breathe in the chill. Your skin tightens, your thoughts sharpen. Then comes the massage. A man with forearms like marble begins kneading your shoulders with myrtle oil, pushing tension out of your muscles as easily as you might squeeze juice from a fig. You want to thank him, but your voice has melted somewhere between your collarbone and your brainstem. Historians note that Greek bathing was often followed by periods of anointing and conversation. It wasn't just a rinse, it was a full reboot. You clean, then you talk. You connect. You belong. You sip a clay cup of infused water, mint and lemon, and watch the sun filter through a reed ceiling, stripes of gold dancing across wet stone floors. You've bathed your body, but also something deeper, something social, something spiritual. As you leave the bathhouse, you pass a statue of Asclepius, the god of healing. Offerings of soap and oil rest at his feet. Cleanliness here isn't about vanity. It's about balance, order, harmony. You feel the dust of the outside world cling to your newly softened skin almost instantly. But something about you has changed. You've been baptized not in religion, but in civilization. You walk barefoot along the stone path toward the agora, smelling faintly of thyme, honey, and olive oil. You're clean in the way the Greeks meant it, in body, yes, but also in soul.